Let's speak to Miko Peled, an Israeli activist and author of The General's Son, and he joins us live now from Washington, D.C. Thank you for speaking to us here at Al Jazeera, Miko. Now, you're an advocate for Palestinian rights, and even though you are in the minority of Israelis that say rejecting Zionism, do you think, under this current ceasefire deal and the 20-point Trump plan, that Palestinians are any closer to having their basic rights accomplished, or even a roadmap to ending Israel's occupation?
Well, thank you for having me. No, this is a complete farce. This entire peace plan and ceasefire, these are just attempts to legitimize the crimes of the apartheid state, of the Israel state of Israel. We have Palestine House of Freedom here in Washington, D.C., which I head. And we put out a very clear statement. If we're talking about demilitarization, it has to be the demilitarization of the party that is conducting the genocide, which is the apartheid state, the state of Israel. As they are continuing to allow millions of Palestinians in the Gaza concentration camp to die, and I'm not just talking about the army killing them, I'm talking about the fact that they have no humanitarian aid. They need unrestricted humanitarian aid to be allowed to go in. Palestinians in the Naqab in southern Palestine are being targeted and killed. Young Palestinians are being targeted and sent into these horrible prisons and tortured. A good friend of mine, Iyad Burnat from the village of Bil'ain, his son in his 20s just had heart surgery as a result of the torture. This has got to be taken in a global way, in a holistic way. The apartheid state, the state of Israel, is the destabilizing party in the region, in Western Asia, and it has to be dismantled. The apartheid state is the problem. Well, the first thing that needs to happen is that the Gaza concentration camp must be liberated, and the Palestinians who live there must be allowed to travel freely and access the aid that they need. I mean, 5 minutes away from the Gaza concentration camp, Israeli Jewish people live, a very wealthy, a very healthy life. It has to come from severe sanctions, an embargo on weapons. As you mentioned in this report, Germany, the United States, everybody is sending more and more weapons to the party that is engaged in genocide. It's already the end of 2025, and all we've seen is another year of horrific brutality by the apartheid state, by the state of Israel, against the Palestinian people. They're targeted in the ghettos of what used to be the West Bank, in the Naqab, in the Galilee, in Jerusalem, and of course, in the Gaza concentration camp.
And more raids still carried out.
As long as it's allowed to continue. And there cannot be a ceasefire when the side that is engaged in violence and conducting the genocide is being provided with more arms. This is absolute madness, the way this is this is handled. And this whole idea of a ceasefire and Netanyahu meeting Trump is only to legitimize the apartheid, to legitimize the genocide, and make sure that Palestinians do not have the aid that they need. The only way Palestinians in Gaza can have the aid is when it is unrestricted and unlimited. And now we have the genocidal party. The genocidal party is the one determining what can and cannot enter this concentration camp, this death camp. It makes no sense.
The rise of illegal Israeli settlers for the impunity that we're seeing.
Well, we established Palestine House of Freedom here in Washington, D.C. about 2 years ago. We have a large space, and we are advocating an anti-Zionist agenda. We're advocating for an agenda that will talk about liberating all of Palestine from this regime, from this apartheid regime that has been destroying Palestine and murdering Palestinians, nonstop. We have to come to a point where the conversation changes from this one that accepts the Zionist narrative to the one that rejects it. Zionism is a white supremacist, racist, genocidal ideology that created this apartheid state, and it has to be brought to an end. Severe sanctions, arms embargo, unlimited, unrestricted aid to the people of Gaza, and allowing free movement for the people throughout all of Palestine, for Palestinians everywhere. Palestinians throughout, in Hebron, like I said, in Bil'ain, in the West Bank, in the Galilee, in the Naqab, they are all being killed. They are all being, they have to live under this reign of terror that has been placed in Palestine almost 8 decades ago. It's time to end it. It's time to talk about a whole different narrative, which talks about ending the apartheid. any conversation that talks about Gaza separate from the rest of Palestine is completely irrelevant and is only there to legitimize the genocide of the Palestinian people. Any support for the Zionist ideology, for the Zionist state, is irrelevant and must become irrelevant through sanctions, through boycott, through divestment, through support for the cause of the Palestinian liberation, absolute liberation from the river to the sea over all of historic Palestine. To pretend like the Gaza or what used to be the West Bank and are now just ghettos where millions of Palestinians have to live is absolutely going with the Zionist narrative. All of Palestine, all of it, from the river to the sea, must be liberated, and there must be put an end to the most destabilizing factor in Western Asia, which is the apartheid state. They're bombing Syria, they're bombing Lebanon, they're bombing Iran, they're bombing everybody around. They're committing crimes everywhere, and it's time to put an end to it. It's going to help if we only focus on this myth of a ceasefire in Gaza. The Israeli military has to be disarmed, has to be dismantled. That is the way to move forward. Otherwise, the suffering of Palestinians, the killing of Palestinians will not stop, and we must put in place guarantees for the safety and security of the Palestinian people, and that's what we advocate for here at Palestine House of Freedom in Washington.